friends. Welcome to Story Behind Podcast. This is the show for people who love hearing a good story and who believe the world could use more positivity. We're the team behind GodUpdates and God2, and we hope these weekly short stories will brighten your day.
Two-year-old recalls being held by Jesus during near drowning, and the boy's details are chilling. Written by Mel Johnson, read by Adam Staten. 2-year-old Max McKee miraculously survived a near-fatal drowning accident after his family discovered him at the bottom of the pool. And hearing him explain what happened during the time he spent unconscious is downright chilling. Courtney McKee, a registered nurse in Louisiana, dropped her 2-year-old son Max and his older brother Brody off to stay at her mother's house for a couple of days while she headed off to work at the hospital. But a terrifying phone call sent her racing back sometime later. Courtney's mom and sister-in-law had been playing in Grandma's swimming pool with Max, Brody, and the boy's cousin. When pool time ended, they took off Max's floaties and moved on to the next activity. However, at some point, Max returned to the pool alone. I think he returned to the pool to get some water and a small bucket to play with. They're not really sure, Courtney explained. When he leaned over to get the water, that's when he might have fell in. Though, so often stories like these bring out judgmental comments from strangers, the reality is these accidents happen in just a matter of moments. And that's why folks like Courtney and others who've experienced this kind of terrible ordeal share their stories to warn and inform others. Courtney's sister-in-law discovered Max face down at the bottom of the pool. He was completely unresponsive. And as the adults urgently called for help and started performing CPR, Max's older sibling, Brody, got down on his knees and begged for his brother's life. The only thing I could do was pray, Brody said. So I dropped on my knees and I said, God, can you help my little brother? Can you just save him? Can you put your guardian angels around him, Lord? Meanwhile, Courtney received a phone call at work alerting her to her son's near-fatal drowning accident. I started crying and I remember my coworkers, fellow nurses, and doctors alike surrounded me, she said. One of them took my phone and started talking for me. I was so numb, I couldn't even speak. Revived and transported to the hospital, no one knew if Max would make it or just how much damage the time unconscious underwater would cause. And though he received excellent medical care, Courtney and her family knew the ultimate healing would need to come from above. So the weeping mother held her baby boy in her arms and cried out to God, and she wasn't alone. Our pastor came, tons of friends who are prayer warriors came, and they just surrounded his bed. And he grabbed hands and we prayed, Courtney said. We just brought down the power of the Lord that day. The next morning, Courtney and her family began seeing signs that God was answering their prayers. Max awoke, and his behavior suggested he was still very much himself. He was a little agitated because he wanted the cords and wires off of him, but he was talking and communicating with us, and we knew at that point he was going to be okay, Courtney said. Max spent a few more days in the ICU, but then went home. And somehow he suffered no deficits or long-term effects from the accident. A true miracle. Several days after his near-fatal drowning accident, the 2-year-old shocked his parents with a revelation. He just looked at his father and I, and he said, When I was in the pool, I wasn't scared. When I was in the pool, Jesus held me, Courtney explained. But what Max said next told Courtney and her husband, Brandon, this was more than just childlike faith. This was a true encounter with Jesus. Then he asked us, why does he have boo-boos and scratches on his hands? Max was referencing the wounds Jesus received during the crucifixion, something he'd never learned or noticed before the near-fatal accident. I was completely stunned, Courtney said. I just asked him to repeat himself, to make sure I was hearing it right. We had never spoken to him about God's hands ever, and the way he described Jesus was just chilling. Max is now 6 years old and still carries the memory of how Jesus held him during his drowning. Just a year after the accident, the boy went to an art camp and completed a painting of him in the arms of Jesus in the water. Max also worked hard to overcome his fear of the water after his near-fatal drowning accident. Courtney made sure he took swim lessons so he now knows how to save himself if he falls into water. And the family continues to share this incredible testimony to encourage others and remind them of Jesus' presence in all of our lives. I think it's something I want people to take away. Miracles still happen today. God is real, she said. Courtney continued saying, more than anything, I think I want people to know that there's power in prayer. And then he said, "The things which are impossible with men are possible with God." Luke 18:27.
Is life feeling chaotic? I get it. I'm Rachel Wojo, host of the Untangling Life podcast. Don't miss the passionate encouragement and faith-based resources you need to help you clear your head and calm your heart. As Shell says, it feels like Rachel always knows what I need to hear. She keeps it real and is so humble. Her podcast is just the cherry on top. Enjoy Untangling Life with Rachel Wojo on lifeaudio.com or your favorite podcast app now.
This is the smell of a warm 3-day-old egg salad sandwich in a wimpy trash bag.
Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy!
Blech. And this is the smell of that same sandwich in a hefty, ultra-strong trash bag with new Fabuloso lemon scent.
Hefty, hefty, hefty!
Smell the difference? When life gives you stinky, get Hefty Ultra Strong with new Fabuloso lemon scent. It smells like clean, freshly picked lemons. So no matter what's inside your trash, you can stop the stink and smell the lemon.
Scott Baio caught flack for leading California, but he's not letting it bother him one bit. Written by Adam Staten, read by Adam Staten. Actor Scott Baio recently left California for Florida and caught some hate when he announced his departure. It's been said that the only consistent part of life is change. Moving from one house or state to the next is one form of change. Of course, most people don't enjoy change, with some even fighting it, but at times it's necessary. But in one former TV star's mind, it was time for a massive change in his life. In early May, the Joni Love Chachi star posted on Twitter that he and his family were making their way out of California. "After 45 years, I'm making my way to finally exit stage right from California," Scott wrote on the social media site. In response to his announcement, several on Twitter responded with hate, directing insults and belittlement at him. "With your lack of work over the last 20 plus years, are you one of the homeless?" one person commented. "You exited from relevancy about 30 years ago. Who cares?" another Twitter user wrote. "Don't worry, Chachi. Since you've been unemployed for so long, you can be homeless in another state," a third person commented. In an interview following his post on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo, Scott said that he and his family had moved down to Florida. He also described that being in Florida is like living in the 1970s. "I found that in all the best possible ways that Florida is pretty much what America was like 50 years ago," he said. "It's just people hanging out. Everything's wide open. It's free. The people that I meet are all just nice." Scott mentioned several reasons for his and his family's escape from California, including the homelessness problem and crime. "The big thing, Maria, was for me, above all else, safety is the issue," he said. "If you don't feel safe, it's not worth living in the town that you're in and we didn't feel safe." Scott's wife, Renee, also posted a message on Twitter about her family's departure from California. "Goodbye, California. We will visit our dear friends and family soon," she wrote. "Have I not given you orders? Take heart and be strong. Have no fear and do not be troubled, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Joshua 1:9.
Thank you so much for listening to Story Behind Podcast. We're really glad you joined us for this week's story. To see photos and videos that may have been referenced in this episode, check out the links in the show notes. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, subscribe to our podcast, and please tell a friend about us. We'd also love it if you'd rate us and leave us a review. It really does help more people find us. Story Behind is a Salem Web Network production.
Hey everybody, I'm Dale.
And I'm Tamara.
And we're hosts of the Kainos Project podcast,
where we help you tackle ancient Christian truths in everyday settings.
The word Kainos means new, and that's exactly what we want to do on our podcast. Bring something new from what is old in our faith.
And on this show, you might hear us explore topics like what the Bible has to say about student loan forgiveness, discuss how the Satanic Temple affects our view of religious liberty in America, or even question why is it that so many people are having rapture anxiety.
To learn more about the podcast, go to lifeaudio.com.